Welcome back to Takeout. Thanks for hanging out with us. CBS News' most recent polling shows President Trump's approval rating basically unchanged. Right now, it's 42%. Been in that range since July. Broken down by top issues, majority of Americans disapprove of the president's handling of immigration, the economy, and inflation. I'm joined now by Schoen-Cooperman. She's CEO of Schoen-Cooperman Research, also an opinion contributor for The Hill. Recently wrote a piece with the title, How Trump's Remarkably Consistent Polling Could Last or Fade. Not the greatest headline in the world. Most things last or fade in life, Carly, but beyond that, what is the significance for President Trump and Republicans that the president's polling data and approval ratings basically, regardless of the headlines, do not budge?
Look, there's something remarkable about what we're seeing. I mean, it's consistently underwater, the approval rating that Trump is having in the low 40s. It's not particularly strong by any means. But what's remarkable is that it has been stable, presiding over such a turbulent presidency that Trump has had. And that is in part to the fact that he has got a strong base of support that love him. Republicans are willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, no matter almost anything that he does. However, at the same time, we are consistently seeing very negative ratings as it relates to the economy and inflation. These are two of the issues that helped propel Trump to victory, as he was able to convince voters that he could take on these issues better than Kamala Harris. And I think that this is something that is going to be a problem for him and or an opportunity for Democrats to capitalize on, given that I don't see his ratings improving in the long term. Now, the government shutdown is happening. This is something that thus far people aren't happy with, Democrats or Republicans, but there's still more blame put to Republicans. The healthcare impact and the conversation around healthcare is something that benefits Democrats as well. Also, Trump has consistently been negative on healthcare. And so there's openings for the Democrats if they are able to capitalize on those issues.
And attitudes matter, it seems to me, Carly, because every president I covered before Donald Trump would have been very nervous about a poll rating 41, 42, 40, even 43. He never has been. Not the first term, not this time around.
That's right. And the thing is, on the other hand, Democrats' ratings are very bad right now, and there's no way to spin that, and I think that's probably to some extent why Trump hasn't been worried or cared. He knows he has a strong base of support. He knows he was able to build a coalition that was quite shocking and unexpected from what we've seen. And, you see in the generic ballot, this is something that we closely watch. The Democrats have a small lead, but it's not as big as one would expect given where his ratings are. And it's been a struggle of the Democratic Party this year to figure out what the messages that they're going to coalesce around, how they can effectively take on Trump, and really how they can stand up to Republicans and present an alternative message that connects with voters.
Carly, does that surprise you, the continued Democratic inability to harness a message and rebound from that devastating loss in 2024?
I think Trump is a president unlike one that we have ever seen before. And the way that he is able to change the focus of our country consistently with drastic approaches that are just really unprecedented has made it difficult, and more difficult than expected, for Democrats to come back on, something like immigration. Some of his efforts have been well received in that people, by the time Trump came into as president, people did believe that immigration had gotten out of control. They were worried about illegal immigration to some extent. But then the shock and awe of which, he was doing things around there, with the National Guard coming into different cities. That's just one example. But I think the way that there's like whiplash in the country has made it more difficult for Democrats to figure that message. And also, quite frankly, they spent the first few months with the infighting in terms of figuring out there was a lot of blame, which direction to go from there. And so, it's something that's taken longer than I think is ideal for the party.
Schoen-Cooperman, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.